Hi there. In this video tutorial, I'll be going through the installation process for the RARS simulator on a Windows machine. As you can see, I have Windows 10 installed. However, for the purposes of this guide, any of the more recent versions of Windows will work just fine. Before we get started, you're going to want to make sure you have Java installed on your machine. As guides on how to install Java are a dime a dozen on the internet, I'm not going to be going through the installation process here, but I suggest pausing this video, doing a quick Google search, and coming back once you have Java, if you didn't already. Now, to get started, the first thing we're going to want to do is head to the course page. I just have it loaded up in Firefox. There should be a link to this course page on eClass somewhere. And while the page you'll see is likely going to look a little different than what it currently looks like at the time of recording, the structure should be relatively the same. And on this page, there's going to be a section dedicated to setting up RARS on your own machine. And we're going to be heading to the instructions for the Windows machines. Here you see just the short list of instructions on how to install for Windows. The first thing we're going to want to do is download a batch script. If you're not familiar with what a batch script is, it's the Windows equivalent of shell scripts for like Unix-based systems like Mac and Linux. We're also going to want to install our jar file. You can think of this jar file as the meat and potatoes of the RARS simulator. This is where all the source code for RARS lives. The batch script is just a short script that kickstarts the program, because normally you can't just run a jar file, you have to tell Java to run it, and so the script is literally just 2 commands that do that. Now let's head to our downloads folder, and as expected we have the batch script in the jar file. In order to run RARS, all we have to do is double click the batch script and it'll start up the simulator. However, the first time we're going to do this, there's going to be a warning from Windows saying that this app is unrecognized and that it might put the PC at risk. This is simply because this batch script isn't coming from the Windows store, and so it's not from a verified publisher, and so it's being overly cautious and saying it might be bad. However, we know better, so we're going to run anyway, and it boots up RARS as expected. From here, you can work on your lab assignments, debug any RISC-V programs, and in general write RISC-V assembly code. I'm going to close RARS, and to elaborate on the error, I'm just going to open up the script for a second. As you can see, there are 3 commands in this file. There's 2 comments. There's a command that tells Windows to clean up the command output. Just a line that prints loading the RARS simulator, and then one last command that actually starts RARS. And so the whole point of this batch script is just to make it easier to load up RARS than going into the command prompt and having to enter the command every time you want to, because you can just double click it. If we want, however, we can do this. Load up the command prompt, head to the downloads folder, and then run Java. And as before, open up the RARS simulator. To uninstall RARS, all you're going to have to do is delete these 2 files. If you want to move these 2 files to somewhere else on your computer and don't just want to keep it in your downloads folders, that's fine. But it's important that you include the batch script and the jar file in the same folder. Otherwise, the batch script won't be able to recognize where the jar file is. If you move it to somewhere on your computer and you want quick access, another thing you can do is write a shortcut on your desktop. Do this, right-click, and create new shortcut. And we have to head to the batch script. You can name this shortcut whatever we want. Click Finish. And then we have a shortcut to the batch script that we can double click And even more conveniently, we can load up RARS from our desktop. Anyways, that concludes this video tutorial.